So I believe you still have to get a hataras nadarim, even though you could absolve yourself from being obligated in that pledge. Okay.
If this gift is not a monetary gift, the book, for example, and the person's a poor person, but he doesn't need the book to, to live.
I think it's still binding, and the reason is because he could always sell the book and buy food for it. Okay. Next. Gava chob shenityayish mimenu im tzarech la'aser. So here's another shaila. Remember, we learned that once a person has yeyush from retrieving his money, a person may still have an obligation to give it to him, but only because he may have committed an act of theft by not giving it to him. Let's say I borrowed money from someone, from Yankel. Yankel, I wasn't able to pay back the debt on time, and Yankel basically was moichel. He basically says, "Don't worry about it." Okay. So, and Yankel himself had Yeush. He basically gave up hope on ever seeing that money ever again. Lo and behold, I'm able to pay him back and I want to give him the money. So I say, here, I'm giving you the money. He says, I already forgot about it. I know you forgot about it, but I want to give it to you anyway. So does Yankel now have to tithe that repayment of the debt since it was an unexpected gift? It's like an unexpected income, just like the rest of his income. So tshuva, im gava chov shekvar hityayish mimenu chayiv b'maiser kevin shu etzlo kireva chadash. And the answer is yes, because it's considered to be new profit, something that you had completely written off of ever getting possession of, and you have basically were moichel the loan. If you now get repayment of that loan, you should give tzedakah from it, just like you would give tzedakah from any income. Mm-hmm. Now, remember, we learned it's a machlokus in the poskim whether a person has to religiously tithe his income, but it seems to be that that's the conventional practice, and so accordingly, you would have to tithe. You would have to tithe this as well. Okay, next she'ela mi shehil v'la'ani ha'im yachol legabos mimaiser ksafim shelo es chovo. Person lends money to a poor person. Can you deduct that amount from the amount that you normally give to tzedakah? Bisman sheroa she'en be'efsharuto shel hani lahachzer techovo, in a situation where you know that the poor person is not going to be able to pay back the debt.
So, because if we consider it tzedakah,
yeah,
then why can't it be
right? Oh, eno yachol lifro achov mimos ma'aser shemafresh me'revach, or maybe since it wasn't in the form of charity, it wasn't as the form of a gift, but was in the form of a loan, the argument would be that you can't. So the answer is as follows: Tshuva lechatchila. The preferable thing to do is b'shah shemal v'la'ani yasa tanai. You should mentally make a statement in your mind as follows. O shetiya machshavto lekach she'im ani lo yachzer halva yochol hafresh lanakos eschova meos mamos shehifrish. He says, if the fellow won't be able to pay me back, I want this to be considered tzedakah, and I want this to be counted from my meiser money. Oh, sheyafrish meharevach kepiraon chov. Or if he does pay me back, I'll take meiser from it as like the payment of a debt. If he ends up paying me back and he gives it to me as a gift. Kol zeh ba'ani sherago litein lo ma'os tamid. Although bistam ani shehilva lo ma'os, he says that this is all up until now talking about a regular poor person that you have a history with, that you normally lend money to, and he typically does end up paying you back. Oh, sheyafrish meharevach kepiraon chov. I'm not sure what he means by those 5 words. Okay. Aval bistam ani shehil v'lo ma'os v'tov uvidia. I'm sorry. There's something. Lo al yidei acher v'im en acher en ma'akev en osrach liskos lani al yidei acher b'shashem afrish ma'osav. there's a typo here. Aval bistam ani shehilva lo ma'os, but with a regular poor person that you lend money to, I think what he means to say is that even though it's garbled, the language, is that when you lend money to a person that you have no historical record with, and there's a good chance that he won't be able to pay you back, make it tonight, make a condition to yourself that if he ends up not paying me back, this money counts as my miser money. If he does end up paying me back, so then I have to use whatever he pays me back for other charitable purposes. Okay. If a person normally does get the money back, then it doesn't seem that he would have to make such a conditional statement. But it's always good to think in the back of your mind that in the event he can't pay me back, I'm going to count this as tzedakah money, and you can deduct it from the regular amounts that you would give over the course of the year. Now, ובדיעבד, הבהיל ולא עני, ולא הייתה מחשבתו שאחר כך ינקה מאותם מעות של מעשר. Now, b'di'evet, if you didn't have that in mind when you lent him the money, and he doesn't end up paying you, you could also deduct that money from Meiser. Yuchal lismoch alosam poskim shebizman hazeh kishahaloi v'bistam mibli lefaresh nachshav kamo or kishahil v'bistam mibli lefaresh nachshav kamo shechashav b'shnas alva sheyifra chova me'osan mo'os shemafrish me'rivachav. You can go like those poskim who say that it's as if you thought at the time of the loan that you'll collect the debt. In other words, you'll write off this and you'll get it back through other means from your other ventures. And therefore you'll be able to sort of forgive this loan.
Is that like for family also? If you give a loan to your child for a mortgage is a loan, you know you'll never get it back. Can you do that also? Family?
Family can be considered to be tzedakah. Yeah. If you have an adult child and you're lending them money and you think that it's unlikely that you'll ever see that money again. No, I mean, I that situation happened to me also, Hal. I do feel that you could count that money as tzedakah when you provide financial support to a struggling young couple, you know?
I mean, it's supposedly the highest level when you go through liquidations of family, right?
Yeah, yeah. But then you have to remember that if the kid ends up paying you back, surprise, surprise, so then you have to find other money for tzedakah or replace or use the money that he pays you back with for charity, if indeed you had that in mind when you gave him the money.
So, if you have a loan that you give to somebody, you know, you're fairly sure that they're not going to pay you back. So you sort of, you haven't ripped it off, but you are not expecting the money back, and then they pay you back a portion of what they loaned from you. So their accounting system not being that great. You pay Sadak on the amount they pay back, or you don't have to because it's not a complete repayment. How would that work?
To be prorated.
If you weren't expecting to get any of it back, so then whatever you do get back, you should take, it's considered to be new income, right? So I guess it all depends on your expectations when you made the loan.
Even though you've already paid Mysore on whatever you earned at the time when you gave them the loan, you paid for that Mysore on that.
Right. So you're sort of double
taxation.
It's a double taxation because this is considered to be unanticipated new income. Yeah. Right.
Rabbi, my wife, we have a grandchild, and she wants to give every year birthday like a big sort of donation towards his education or whatever else might be to our kids, to my grandchild. So would that be considered, is that gift, or could that be considered like tzedakah?
Usually when you do that, don't you give it to the institution for his education?
Well, he's a baby right now.
You can set up an RESP.
Oh, you mean you want to put away money for his
Yeah.
RSP? Can that count as charity? I don't think that can count as charity because that's not, the child's a dependent on his parents. And it's the child doesn't, I don't think the child qualifies as an ani, as a poor person. I think
I
that's
mean, will they
that's
be an adult
Well,
when they get the money out?
yeah, so the question is then, when they get the money for their education, do they have to pay most of that money?
No, that's, yeah, what I meant is we just said,
Because
it's
they're
only
not
if you
getting-
give it to an adult, that you don't.
well, you don't know. You don't know at the time when you're giving it. If the child, you're relinquishing that money at a time when the child is not poor.
Yeah, but you would give it to the child, probably give it to the parent, they would put into the RE.
Yeah.
You can get one of the tax deductible.
But it could be that it's under the name of the child.
No, you can do it directly and then it's your,
You can do it directly, but on
But
the grandparents have RESPs for the kids.
But then when the child turns 18 and has no income, except for what he's getting from the spirit of the TSFA, right? Does he have to pay my son that month? It is an income.
it's getting too tax complicated.
Don't tax them.
We're not talking about tax.
He's talking about, does he have to take miser on the gift?
Right, right.
If it was designated specifically for the child's education, he would not have to. Yeah.
Because he's not actually.
Anytime I allocate a gift to you and I say you should specifically use these funds for X, so you don't have to take miser from them. Because the money was given on a condition that it should be used exclusively for a specific purpose. So you have no right to tithe it.
You think of it.
What?
And you think of myself before you give it.
Yeah, presumably the gifter, but even it's irrespective of the gifter. Listen, if I hire you for my company and I pay you for your work, you still have to take miser just because I might have, just because the employer tithes his income doesn't make the employee exempt from tithing it once it comes into his possession. But in a situation where it was designated specifically for education, then you don't take miser from it.
And it's, well, if you dedicate it for a specific application, not education, let's say, house, house.
Whatever you've designated it for,
That money must be used for that and that alone.
the money must be used for that and that alone, right? And therefore it's exempt from miser. Yeah. Hey, Wayne, good to see you. Wayne's back. Okay, so that's again, the language that he uses here is a little bit funky. I guess just to make sure that we have the language correct, he quotes the Rama in Shulchan Aruch, who says, "Misha mafrish ma'asrosav v'hilvela ani mishalo, mafrish ma'aser shalo, u'mechashiv al zeh shehilvela ani u'makiv la'atzmo ma shehifrish." Let's see. If a person normally tithes his income for tzedakah, and then you give a loan to a poor person from the money that has already been tithed. Mafrish meiser shalo, u'mechashev al zeh shehil v'la'ani, u'ma'akev la'atzmo ma shehifrish. So you calculate that which you gave to the ani as part of the tithed income, meaning you can take the tithe, the 10%, and use that for the poor person's loan. If I'm understanding what he's saying correctly. Right? So you can basically, whatever you set aside as a tithe, you can subtract that from the amount, you can subtract that the amount that you gave as a loan from your tithed amount. Od Kosov Shambarama, Vidavka Shahani Hilvelo Adain Chai. Aval Imeit Onit Asher Ein Sarach L'Shalem. Shaharei ani hais haya ba'osa shah, ve'en mafrishan al ha'avod, ve'en malchus shema mit'aser ela biyadua. Okay, so we need some clarification about this language. The whole language is a funky language to begin with. Let's take a quick look at Yoredei Siman Reish Nun Zayin Sif Hey. Reish Nun Zayin Sif Hey. We have to really take a look in the Shulchan Aruch itself and see the language of the Shulchan Aruch, because we're coming in the middle, and for some reason, it's an unusual language. Maybe we'll get a better insight. Reish Nun Zayin Sif Hey. Okay, so it's not there. But maybe he means to say that it's in Yoredea. Yes, he does. Okay, so because Hilchos Tzedakah is no longer in Choshen Mishpat, Hilchos Tzedakah is in Yoredea. Okay. So let's take a look at Reish Nun Zayin. Sif Hey. Here we go. Kishechaser b'kis shel tzedakah tzarech hagaboy lahalvos. If there's money missing in the charity chest, meaning that there's not enough to provide for the communal needs, the gabbai should lend from his own pocket as a loan to obviously if he's capable of doing so, and he can take that money back later at a later time. Okay, and then when there's a surplus of funds at some time later, the gabbai tzedakah can just take what he put in. In other words, so a group of aniyim come to me, and I look into the pushka. I'm the gabbai tzedakah. I look into the pushka, and there's not enough money to go around. So I'm allowed to take my own personal money, use that to augment the deficit, and I can give out money. I write it down how much I lent, and then when this is a surplus, the next time in the pushka, I can just take that money as repayment. Okay, that's what this halach in Shulchan Aruch is all about. Nifra mimenu vein tzarich litol rishus mehanos nembekis. You can just take it on your own without even asking permission from the administration, the other people in the community that are in charge of the pushka. Okay, so that's the halacha of the mechaber, which is in itself an interesting chiddush, right? In other words, there's a certain propriety that is imposed upon the gabbai tzedakah, but if the gabbai tzedakah wants to loan money from his own pocket to the pushka, he can also collect on his own what is owed to him. Now, comes along the Rama on this halacha and says, Misha mafrish masrosav, the hilvala ani mishalo. So a person who normally tithes, and then he, let's see what the language is. V'hu hadin shar tzedakah, meaning that it doesn't have to be that he normally gives all of his meiser money to charity, to the poor charity. It could be that he's set aside his money and has already tithed it, let's say, to write a Sefer Torah. Okay, v'hil v'la'ani mishalo. And as the Shach explains, Kolomar shehil v'la'ani al matnosav she'asid lekabel min menu she'yifra lo bahem. What does that mean? Let's see. Laldas Kane, who plucked it on. Let's see. What does the Shach say? Klomer, shehil v'la'ani al matnosav sha'asid lekabel mimenu sheyifralo bahem. Hilkach mafrish hamaiser o tzedakah shelo alav v'mechashiv zeh kilu nasno la'ani v'hu mishalem lo bahem, v'hilkach ma'akvem la'atzmo b'tashlumin. V'hilkach keven shemes onit aser ein tzarich l'shalem, shaharei lo hilva kedei sheyashalem lo mimamono, ve'eni yochol lahafrishom alav. Deha'achshav eni yochol lizkos bahen sharei hu mes onit asher, ve'en lahafrish lemafreya k'sheyachai, va'ani de'en mafrishin al ha'avod. Meaning, so what the Shach is basically saying, v'hil v'la'ani mishalo. You give a loan to an ani from the miser money that you had already tithed. Sha'asud lekabel, so sha'asud lekabel mimenu sheyifra lo bahem hilkach mafrish hamaiser od tzedakah shelo alav v'mechashev zeh ki'ilu nasno la'ani. So you consider it as if you had given him charity. V'hu mishalem lo bahem v'hilkach ma'akveim la'atzmo b'tashlumin. All right. So again, the language is, for some reason, either because I haven't woken up yet from my trip, or because there's something unclear from this language. I'm going to have to go to the Aruch HaShulchan to really figure out what he's what he's talking about over here. Because again, for some reason, I'm still not able to process what he's really saying. Maybe if we look at the Aruch HaShulchan, we'll be able to get an even greater sense of clarity, because he's sort of like the Mishnah Berurah commentary. So again, what is the it's Rishon and Zion. There we go, chapter. Okay, so he quotes the Ramah here. The Kos of Rabbeinu Harama b'Sifhei, Misha Mafrish Masrosav, the Hil V'la'ani Mishalo, Mafrish Meiser Shalo, Umechashev al Zeh Shehil V'la'ani, Uma'akev La'atzmo Ma Shehifrish. Okay, a person has already taken his tithe, and then he gives of his own money a loan to a poor person. Mafrish Meiser Shalo, Umechashev al Zeh Shehil V'la'ani. So what basically he's saying is, just like the Gabbai who loaned money to the Pushka and then takes payment from it, if the ani never ends up paying me back, I can take money from the amount that I tithe. Let's say I set aside 10% of my income and I put it in a segregated account. If I end up lending a guy money who's poor and he ends up not paying me back, I can take whatever I lent him from my segregated charity account as repayment, is basically what he's saying. Okay? We'll follow up with this Amir Tzashem tomorrow. Okay? Have a great day, everybody.
Have a nice day.
You too.